Hi, it's Tina, your leadership coach here. I understand how overwhelming and lonely transitioning from team member to team leader can feel. That's why I'm here to support you with the skills and confidence you need to succeed in your new leadership career. I wanted to take 10 minutes of your time to do a live video on this topic for you because I think it's an amazing opportunity for managers like you to turn this from a negative to a positive at work. So let's dive in. Quiet quitting is a term that has been popularized by Gen Z and millennials on social media. But essentially what it's doing is describing employee disengagement. That's the concept where workers stop going above and beyond at work. Now, this quiet quitting term has been actually going on for decades. Other terms that I've heard used for it in the past have been things like coasting, right? Clocking in and out, phone it in. Even unions coined the term work to rule as a job action in which employees do no more than the minimum required by rule and still collect a paycheck. Now, the thing is, quiet quitting isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's being viewed as a way to redraw boundaries so that people aren't thinking about work 24/7 and can find more work-life balance as a result. This trend has been triggered by widespread burnout. Post-pandemic return to office policies that might be creating a commuting stress and wages not keeping up with recent inflation. So let's face it, as a manager, you're not going to be able to influence those types of triggers. But if an employee is disengaged, as a manager, you have direct access and ability to influence them to open up so you can get more insights and either action these yourself or bring them up to your management team so that you guys can work together to put plans in place to improve the environment. Now, in June 2022, a Gallup survey of over 15,000 workers in the US found that only 21% of their workers felt their managers cared for their well-being, as opposed to 50% during the peak of the pandemic. That's a big drop, and that's where you come in. You need to start viewing your employees as humans and not just workers, and that means taking some time to build some connections with them. So how do you do that? Well, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need to make sure that before you moved into the advanced tiers, that you actually make sure that the basic things are in place first. So the first thing I want you to think about is, are you doing regular one-on-ones? This is such an overlooked mechanism to build connection with your employees. This opportunity to communicate has to be prioritized on your calendar and done consistently. Next, are you checking in on them as a person and not just their work? For example, starting your one-on-ones with, how are you feeling today? Or checking in at the end. Are there any personal events we should cover off, like medical appointments or family situations that might impact you this week? These types of questions will give you insights into how they're feeling and what's going on for them outside of work. The third thing I want you to question is, do you have clear and realistic performance expectations documented for them? The clear part is important. They need to know how to win with you. So this goes back to being sure that your employees know what you believe poor and excellent performance looks like for their role, their project, and exactly what milestones need to be accomplished for them to succeed. This makes it easier for both of you guys to confidently assess their performance. The realistic aspect is making sure you haven't put too much on their plate or expectations that they can't meet because they don't have the skill set or the capability to do so. Lastly, have you worked on defining their career path and their growth opportunities? This gives employees a clear vision of where they're heading, including a realistic amount of time and capabilities they need to master in their roles before they can progress beyond it, right? All of these things are essential, the basics for creating a positive work environment for your team. So now that you have a good basis, you can move into more advanced leadership tactics to support employee disengagement. Now, I need to caveat this by saying that we can't assume that someone's disengaged. Something else might be happening in their lives. You need to observe some sort of behavior that is impacting their performance. Like, I'm going to give you a report example in a couple of seconds. Something that could be impacting their growth opportunities. For example, if they keep their camera off during meetings all the time, that's going to impact their ability to communicate effectively with teams, right? Or it could even be something negatively impacting team morale because team members are picking up their slack. Once you have that, you can now go into a conversation with what's really going on, right? There are two ways you can approach this conversation. The first is, during your next one-on-one, ask them how they're feeling about their job or project. What's working for them? What's not working for them? Many people will open up here and be honest. And then you ask them how you can support them. Depending on what comes up, you might be able to eliminate some obstacles for them quite easily. Others might need a plan that both of you work on. And some of those needs may be brought up to your manager to help you resolve them. What's important here is that you took the time to listen and you demonstrated your desire to help. The second way you can approach disengagement, especially if the person isn't opening up and you're really concerned with them, you need to bring it up yourself with some sort of specific feedback. Start by acknowledging the positive behavior you noticed in the past and state the behavior you're observing right now. Don't forget to state the impact for both of those, positive and negative behaviors. Let me give you an example. Tina, your last two reports were on time and perfect. The management team was very happy with them and able to use the data in their last presentation to the board. Now, this last report wasn't up to your usual quality. There were a few errors and omissions and it was 2 days late. I'm concerned that if this continues, it might end up leaving our management team in a lurch and impact the team's performance targets for the year. Once you've done that, it's time to now have the conversation. Start with an open-ended question like, what was getting in the way from getting the report in on time this week? This type of question is structured in a way that'll keep your employee from getting on the defensive, and it leaves them open to really speak freely. Asking the question, and what else, at least once more is a good way to flush everything else. You can then move on to a question that moves you into problem-solving mode. Given what's in the way, what's possible to fix this going forward? Use your employees' creative suggestions here to create a plan that you guys are going to revisit in your next one-on-one. So, to recap, quiet quitting is not a new trend and is actually a sign of employee disengagement. Many of the triggers for this might be out of your control, but what is in your control as a manager is to work on opening up the channels of communication and making sure you are checking in on them and not just the work. When you create an open environment like that, it will lead to greater job satisfaction, reduced stress, loyalty, and mutual respect, with the outcome of creating a more productive work environment and a positive workplace. Now, if you found this helpful, I have more resources coming your way. Find me on social media and head to my bio for those resources, including a Discover Your Conflict Management Style quiz that is going to help you take the stress out of difficult conversations even more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again.